That's so pretty. Wow.
Well, I guess she's ready. Would you stand with us?
Sunshine, you're mine. Best times, you're mine. Anomaly. And I'd choose you in 100 lifetimes. I'd choose you in 100 worlds. I'd find you. And I'd say I do for the rest of my life. With all that I have, I do. And I will, when the sky is falling, I promise you I'm all in. No turning back. And every day, every moment, every breath you take, I choose you.
Who gives this woman to be married to this man? That's the right order. All right. On behalf of Matt and Dana and their families, it's my privilege to welcome you to this ceremony where we will witness these two pledge their love and life to each other. You may take your seats. Let me just begin by saying you look absolutely beautiful. I don't know if it's like a forest goddess or something. You, on the other hand, are very sexy. So, well done, guys. Barry and Lynn, Hank and Francis, this occasion is a very special kind of celebration for you, the parents of Matt and Dana today. You are witnessing another stage in the life of your children. Your continuing support and encouragement will be needed from all of you as Matt and Dana in marriage and will continue the task of building a home together. So Barry and Lynn, Hank and Francis, as the parents of these two, will you accept and receive your new son and daughter into your family? Will you love and support them in your marriage with your love? This is such a great time for me to be able to meet you guys not too long ago, but be at the very beginning of your marriage relationship. I want to be able to share with you something, and so I'm going to do so in reference to my own personal journey with marriage and what I'm still learning after about 25, it's almost 25 years, right, hon? Almost. I think we'll make it. A few years ago, my perspective was significantly altered by the work of a Belgian psychotherapist, go figure. Her name is Esther Perel. She's very notable for her work on exploration around the tension that exists between the need for security and the need for freedom in human relationships. So in her book, Mating in Captivity, she addresses the dual functions of both love and desire within the marriage relationship, and the need for both without the exclusion of the other, and whether or not it's actually possible to live with them both alive and well in a long-term marriage relationship. It's a very fascinating read that continues to challenge my perspective on what it means to have a healthy marriage. There's one specific quote that captured me. Our capacity to stay connected to each other is founded on our ability to tolerate loneliness inside of the relationship. So my initial question was, what the hell does that even mean? And so I dug a little bit deeper, and the answer to that is there are some things and needs and wishes and hopes that I'm not going to be able to get inside of my marriage relationship, no matter how good it is. I want to use an iconic movie from my childhood as an allegory to unpack what this means. This might be a little weird of a ride for the next few minutes, but stick with me, it's going to sort of make sense. I'm sure we've all seen The Wizard of Oz, right? The hopes and wishes of Dorothy, Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Lion resting in the land of Oz. So off they go to see the wizard. Soon after arriving, their hopes fade and turn to disappointment and disillusionment when Toto pulls back the curtain to reveal the truth of Oz. The land of Oz was not what they expected. There's a wizard, but he's just an ordinary guy with a background in science, showbiz, and the magician's sleight of hand. And they're not going to get what they want, their wishes for home, courage, a brain, and a heart from the wizard as they expected, or how the urban legend of Oz is promised through song and dance of the Munchkins. Who doesn't love Munchkins? However, as the wizard does point out in symbolic gestures and gifts, the solutions to their wishes were right in front of them the whole time. It's not magic, it's a dose of reality. For many of us, the beginning of our journey into the marriage relationship is like the land of Oz. It represents our hopes, our expectations, our dreams, and the desires of an ideal relationship, you know, the soulmate. Eventually, Toto, which represents real life experiences over time and life together, pulls back the curtain to expose the reality of the marriage relationship. Oz and marriage exist, but it's not what we expected. Any wizard worth their salt will tell you that there are no magical remedies to the reality of your journey. But the solutions, no matter how difficult, are right in front of you. They're actually within you. I can't grant you your wishes for an ideal marriage relationship, at least not in a magical way. But I can point out 3 gifts in wizard-like fashion that are right in front of you, and they always will be. Gifts that can help you find yourself and the way home when life's witches and flying monkeys, and God, we hate flying monkeys, they'll show up and things get dark and frightening. The 3 gifts are 3 perspectives to challenge your thinking and to call you to have the heart of courage that's big enough for you as an individual and couple for the journey that lies ahead of you. We're captivated by a romantic ideal in which we look to one person to fulfill our endless lists of needs. be my greatest lover, my best friend, the best parent, my trusted confidant, my emotional companion, my intellectual equal. And that's why the phrase, "you're my everything," is a scary proposition. It's simply unlivable. And that's where the loneliness of reality lives within all of us, in our every relationship that we have, especially inside the marriage relationship. The reality for this is the first of my gifts to you, to the scarecrow in each one of you. This would be the wish and the gift of a brain that could grieve the loss of the ideal marriage. The notion that the ideal relationship, the dream, the fantasy, the perfect picture, the unblemished version of the other, eventually we discover that every version has flaws and every fantasy fades. The knowledge of this reality is actually a gift that takes time to accept. Once your brains accept the need to grieve the loss of the ideal relationship, you're left with gift number 2, learning to live with the pain of that. Learn to live with the pain of the loneliness that can come with you not getting what you want and what you need, when you want it, and the way in which you want it. Does that make sense? To the lion in each of you, this would be the wish for the gift of courage. The courage to learn to live with the pain of it gives you a much deeper and intimate knowledge of yourselves, each other, that will evolve over time, and expose avenues for you to examine your immature expectations and notions that you may have of each other in the marriage relationship, and expectations that will either need to be discarded or altered, which brings you the opportunities to make personal choices, sometimes really tough ones, individually and as a couple, and choices that will determine the level of intimacy at which you'll connect in your relationship. When you don't learn to live with the courage it takes to live with the pain, we default into shrinking back and allowing the slow burn of resentment to set in, harboring contempt for each other, and the exercise of scorekeeping the trespasses and faults of each other. So what does that look like in human terms, in everyday practical? Well, for the sake of the Oz allegory, let's call them the wicked witches and flying monkeys, of being right. The insatiable need to be right, and even worse, to be told you were right, usually at the price of someone else's shame and guilt. There's control, trying to manipulate the pieces to force a different outcome because we're uncomfortable with reality. There's self-expression, where we operate independently and belligerently at the expense of the other and the relationship. There's retaliation, settling the score, leveling the playing field, eye for an eye, as if it will actually make a difference. And then there's withdrawal and rejection, to pull away, detach, withhold from each other, to otherwise ignore, devalue the other. Once you learn to accept with your brains that you must grieve the loss of this ideal, and have the courage to let it go, to let go of your default settings, and to learn to live with the pain of it, you finally have the space needed to develop hearts big and strong enough to be appreciative of what you're getting instead of what you're not getting, to value what's right in front of you for what, who they are, and as they are. So to the Tin Man in each of you, this would be the wish for a gift of a heart. I hate to admit this, but I was caught up in this John Tish commercial you've heard of him on the radio, right? He had this one segment where he's describing common factors that consist in long-term relationships. And research has shown that healthy couples that have made it the long haul have one thing in common. They've agreed to accept their spouse, faults and all, without trying to change them into somebody else. It's easy to find the worst, the flaws, the mistakes, the imperfections, shortcomings of ourselves, the other, and the world around us. And at times, the perfect imperfections that make the masterpiece, it depends on your perspective. Learn to celebrate the beauty that's the best in each of you. Search for opportunities to create value in each other. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. This is the principle of acceptance, but it takes the heart to do so. When and if change comes, it can only do so when there's a deep level of acceptance for the other, as they are, not what they could be. It's a tough lesson for all of us to learn, an even bigger challenge to face on a daily basis with the ones we love. A big heart learns to accept the other just the way they are, rather than trying to change them. There's a quote from American Beauty. It's one of my favorite movies. The world moves for love. It kneels before it with awe. This is the true Oz in the marriage relationship. And to make your world kneel with awe, you will need to make your wishes come true with the brain to accept and grieve the loss of the ideal, the courage needed to learn with the pain and loneliness of that, so that you can have the heart big enough to appreciate what you're getting instead of what you're not getting. Matt and Dana, we come now to your vows. Would you please face each other for the exchanging of both your rings and your vows? Go ahead, Dana.
From the moment our paths crossed, you've surprised me, captivated me, distracted me, and challenged me in a way no one ever has. I've fallen in love with you again and again, and I still can't believe that today I get to marry my best friend. I promise to be true to you, to uplift and support you, and to share with you the beautiful moments of life. Someday, if the stars align, I might even let you win an argument. No matter what trials we encounter together or how much time has passed, I know that our love will never fade, that we will always find strength in one another, and that we will continue to grow side by side. I believe in the truth of what we are, and I will love you always.
Go ahead, Ben.
I'm not promising you it will be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is. I'm not promising it will be perfect, as perfection is fantasy. As we are here, as real as it can be. All I promise is I will be with you, by your side, supporting you when I can, trusting in your support when I falter for all of our lives.
Matt, what symbol do you give Dana in acknowledgement of these your vows?
Ring?
Yeah, that would be it, baby. You're on it.
Almost.
You may place it on Dana's finger. There you go. Perfect. Dana, what symbol do you give Matt in acknowledgement of your vows?
This ring.
You may place it on Matt's finger. Things get much harder than this, just so you know. These rings are to be a sign and symbol of the bond of marriage that you've entered into today. May these rings forever symbolize the eternal nature and beauty of your love, and to remind you that you are in fact marked. You are not your own, but you belong to each other. May these rings forever be a token of that sacrifice. So now, before I pronounce you married partners, I have just one more thing I want you to do. Your wedding day is one day that seems to fly by. It's a day filled with emotion, friends, rings, and dances. Many people remember how fleeting their own wedding day was. So I want you to take a few seconds to look into each other's eyes. Think about the happiness that you're feeling in this moment. Really let that feeling register in your heart and your mind. And now I want you to think about your life together in 20 years. Where are you? What are you doing? We all know that your visions of the future are not identical, but always complementary. John Lennon once said, "A dream you dream alone is only a dream. A dream you dream together, that is reality." That new reality starts right now. Inasmuch as each of you have mutually agreed to enter into marriage and have promised the same before each other, your family and friends, and acknowledged your vows with the symbol of these rings, I pronounce you husband and wife. Matt, you may kiss your bride. Okay, Dorothy, Toto, spin around. Before we click your heels and send you two home, I want to make this announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you for the very first time, Mr. and Mrs. Matt and Dana Bodowitz. Told you it would be fitting. All right, guys. Remember, the reception begins at 5 o'clock at Laurel Packing. I'll see you there.
Oh, she's way over there. Yeah, I said I know it off by heart.
Oh, they're doing it. I heard another one.
Are you guys going on opposite sides like this?
Normally it's one side.
Yeah, guys, move over here.
Side, it's so much easier. Congratulations. Beautiful. Isn't that right, Mama?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot my umbrella.
Yep.
This wasn't rehearsed.
He's like, we didn't practice.
That was good, Jim. We did good. Thank you.
Should we go like a guy, girl? Guy, girl, guy, girl.
Yeah, come here.
Nobody's leaving though because we're leaving pictures right after.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, is there? Oh my gosh.
What?
Yeah, those two. That's what I was saying, like, go back on.
Yeah, move down, move down. Okay. Yeah.
I just got that. I brought extra underwear. You guys are cute.
I'm gonna go say hello before I freeze.
I was crying more than you, I think.
Yeah, you're good.
Also really impressed I'm not saying Congratulations.
So good.
Good. Rain will know.
Oh, we're looking. Yeah. They're all got a Mason on her.
I like your new nice tie.
You would. You probably would.
Natalie doesn't show beautiful. You're so good
Are you coming around now, man?
Thank you. See, I'm going to give it to Harlow when I leave, and then Harlow will bring you.
Slide five.
Is she?
Family camp. So we stayed the whole day.
Clean up nice, man.
You look sharp. I'm the yeah, oh yeah. Thank you so much, Winter. That was beautiful. Thank you. Your photographer. So yeah, if you're just your photographer, my grandparents. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm not
Let's do it. It's a fun drive. It's a fun. I did.
I know since you saw him, yeah, just went on TV. Carlo,
Give me a hug.
Got our good luck now. Come back over to
I'll give you a hug. You can use it.
yeah, I know it's
Yeah? There's
It's nice because it's not too sunny, you don't squint or sweat takes out.
I'll find out. There's family photos,
One day I'll just tell me what to do. I said if you're looking great again.
Awesome job!
Thank you very much. Good seeing you. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
just tell Steph.
Yeah, thanks for coming. One more time. Think about going back. I know the photographer's like, oh, which one do you use? I was like, no, that's me. Yeah, you can't see the tattoos and no more tattoos.
Good, how are you?
We can't leave. All family both sides down this way. I'm going to make sure that they don't leave. I don't think they've left yet. I had some blockers. Yes. And they did to stop us. I know. Okay.
Hello?
Hello again.
Well, hello. Great?
Yes.